The magic preliminary remarks. Though the feeling of being part of cosmic reality is predominant, Donator, Donator and its cause are the pattern to which the Tobanese adapts his life as much as possible, yet he is a conscious and rational being, however developed this consciousness may be, who can detach himself from everything around him. He also has an objective mind. This kind of mentality is most manifest in his magic ceremonies. This does not imply, however, that it is predominant, for the participatory mentality also plays an important part in the magic ceremonies. It is owing to this dualistic mentality that we find the attitude of humility and of pride side by side inextricably interwoven. That is why it is so hard to separate religion and magic. At best, we can only distinguish between them. Of the many magic ritual ceremonies, we will only give a description to the dance with the tunggal panaluan. Tunggal panaluan. What does this name mean? Warner, Winkler, etc. have derived panaluan from the verb talu, i.e. to be conquered. Then the meaning of the name must be man, der unterliegen mag. Warner, Religion p. 132. We doubt the correctness of this interpretation, for in this connection, talu does not mean to be conquered, but tolu, 3. Besides man, tunggal can also mean one. From the cardinal number tolu, the verb manalu is formed, i.e. to form a triad. Cf. Ponang manalu, the three-colored thread. In our opinion, tunggal panaluan means trinity. The staff is a trinity, fish of under, middle, and upper world. In the conception of the Tobanese, it is a tree reaching from the underworld into the upper world, i.e. natojol di tanah, nasukot di langit. In other words, it is the tree of life in a concrete form. A normal staff is about 1.70 meter long, 5 or 6 centimeters thick. From its upper part downwards, we see a number of figures representing men and animals. It is hard to say whether a definite number of them was originally prescribed for each staff. However, the top figure usually exceeds the other features in size, while on the lower part we often see a serpent beating a lizard's tail. Photo 9. Many myths about this staff have been published. For the sake of our argumentation, we will give two of them here. The first is a myth translated into English by Tickerman. The second, a myth translated into German by Reske. 1. At Sidorog Pangurugan, on this island of Samosir, the division between land and water had already taken place when a certain man lived there called Guru Hatia Bulan. He was a heathen priest and was named Datu Arak di Pane. His wife was called Nansinda Panaluan. They had been married for a long time before this woman became pregnant. When she was expecting at last, it took abnormally long before the child was born. Everyone in the village thought it a mysterious case. At the time, there was a famine in the country. The weather was unbearably hot, and hard grass covered pools and swamps. In consequence of this continuous drought, the Raja Bius, head of the communion of sacrifice, became very uneasy. He went to Guru Hartia Bulan and said to him, "It is advisable that we should find out and ask the just deity why drought and famine have continued for such a long time. Such a thing has been occurred." Guru Hatia Bulan replied, "Everything is possible." Then Then said the Raja Bius, everyone is astonished at your wife's long pregnancy. The midwives declare that this pregnancy has lasted too long. A quarrel arose about these words, but no one was wounded or killed. Meanwhile, the give the meanwhile the wife gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. Immediately after children's birth, the rain came down in torrents. All the plants in the field and in the wood lived, and the world looked fresh and green again. Guru Bulan had an ox killed to reconcile devil powers. He called together all the old people and the chiefs to a feast on which the names of the children should be made down. The boy was called Si Ajidonda Hatahutan, the girl Si Burutapi Nawasan. After the festive repast, the guests advised that these children should not be brought up together. The one should be taken to the west, the other to the east. For the birth of twins, especially of a different sex, is a very unfavorable thing according to old conceptions. Guru Bulan, however, did not take any notice of the wise counsels of the old ones and chiefs. In the long run, however, it was proved that the wise men had been right. Guru Bulan built a little hut on the sacred mountain Pusubuhit, where he took his children. A dog had to take care of them, and every day Guru Bulan brought them food. When the children had grown up, it happened that the girl, during a walk saw a tree called Piu Piu Tangule, or how Tada Tada, the trunk of which was full of long thorns. This tree bore ripe juicy fruits. Tapi now was on wish to eat the fruits and therefore climbed in the tree. She picked some of the fruit and ate them, but at the same time she was swallowed up by the trunk and became one of it. Only her head remained visible. Her brother waited until the evening for her return, and then went to the wood to investigate, where he called her name in a loud voice. In the neighborhood of the tree, his call was answered by the girl, and when he had drawn near, she told him how she had been, as it were, swallowed up by the tree. Siaji Donda climbed in the tree, but he also absorbed by the trunk and grew one with it. Both cried, both cried for help, but their pitiful voices were lost in the profound darkness. The next morning, the dog came running along. The animal jumped against the trunk, and the dog too was swallowed up by the wood, and only the head remained visible. Guru Bulan came as usual to bring food for his children. When he did not see them, he followed his son's footprints, and at last reached the tree, where he only saw his children's heads and the head of the dog. He was overcome with grief. Guru Bulan then went out to look for a wizard and found one called Datu Pormanuhon. The Datu came to the tree accompanied by many people from far and near, for the event had become known everywhere. Musical instruments were fetched, and the Datu commenced his work. He mumbled prayers to dispose the spirits favorably, and did whatever he could to break the charm. After having done the necessary ceremonies, he climbed into the tree, but he was also swallowed up. Dumbfounded, Gugu Bulan and the spectators returned home. They did not give up hoping, however, and looked for another Datu. A great wizard was found named Maringin Bosi or Datu Malatang Maliting. This person went to the tree but was absorbed too. Now
Datu Bogu Sibaso Bolon came under the tree. He also was swallowed up. The same thing happened to the Datus Horbo Paung and si Haji Bahir of Jolmasi Begu, who was partly human, partly devil. A snake was also swallowed up. Guru Hatia Bulan was at his wits' end. He had spent a good deal on the datus for moose and sacrifices to the spirits. Whatever was asked him was eagerly paid by him, but now he had lost heart. Some days later, a Datu Parpasadijang announced himself. He declared with certainty that he could set the people at liberty. Guru Hatia Bulan believed in the Datu and provided him with everything he asked for. Then the Datu declared that they should sacrifice to all the spirits of the land, the spirit of the water, the spirit of the wood, and all the others. After that, the people would be set at liberty. Guru Hatia Bulan prepared the sacrifices according to the Datu's indications. They then went to the tree with all the village people, and after the Datu had made use of his witchcraft, he cut down the tree. When the tree fell at the heads, ha- when the tree had fell, when the tree fell, all the heads had suddenly disappeared. When the heads of the dog and the serpent, everyone was dumbfounded. But the Datu told Guru Hatia Bulan to cut the tree to pieces to carve in the wooden images of the people that has disappeared. Thus it was done. He cut the trunk into pieces and carved in the stick the images of 5 men, 2 women, a dog, and serpent. After these 9 images had thus been obtained, everyone returned to the village. When they had arrived, then when they arrived there, the gong was struck, while an ox was killed in honor of those that were represented by the images. The stick was placed against the front of a rice set, after which Guru Hatia Bulan danced. After that, Datu Parpasagisjang executed an ecstatic dance. In this way, he made the spirits of those swallowed up to enter into him. After these spirits had taken possession of him, they began to speak. They were the spirits of si Haji Donda Hata Hutan, si Buru Tapi Nauasan, Datu Pulau Pujung Nauli, si Pagjabulan, si Melbusbus, si Melbuselbus, Guru Mangatak Porang, si Sangkang Maulaul, dari Mangapat, Siubang Mangele, Barita Sokar Pangaribuan. They said, "Say, Father Sculpture, thou hast carved our images, and we have eyes but cannot see, we have mouths but cannot speak, we have ears but cannot hear, we have hands but cannot grasp. We curse thee, sculpture." Datu answered from the same mouth, "Don't curse me, but this knife from without it, for, but this knife from without it, I could not have cut your image." The knife replied, Do not curse me, but the smith. If he had not forced me, I should never have become a knife. The smith said, "Do not curse me, but the bellows from without the blowing I could have forced anything." The bellows said, "Do not curse us." But Guru Hatia Bulan, for if he had not commanded us to act as we did, we should never have done this work. When it concerned Guru Hatia Bulan, the spirit spoke again from the wizards. Wizards Philip Lumban Tobing mouth. "I curse thee, father, and also thee, mother, who has given birth to me." When Guru Hatia Bulan heard this, replied, "Don't curse me, but curse yourselves, you that have fallen into the pit. You that have fallen into the pit, you killed by lance, and you not possessing the descendants." Thereupon the spirit says, when it must be thus, brother, used me henceforth as rain conjurer in the wet season, rainmaker in the dry season, counselor in the governing of the country, fellow combatant in the war, causer of corruption in sickness and death, and at the same time the power to track down the thief or robber. After this, the ceremony was over, and everyone went on his way. Es war einmal in alte, Es war einmal in alten Zeiten ein Fuchs, dessen Frau Zwillinge zur Welt brachte, einen Knaben und ein Mädchen. Ist es bereits an sich ein Unglück, wenn sich Zwillinge geboren werden, so war das Unglück hier noch größer, da die Kinder verschiedenen Geschlechtes waren, dass solche Kinder haben stets den Wunsch, beisammen zu sein. Der Knabe und das Mädchen, si Aljidonda Hatahutan und Sitapi Raja Nawasan geheißen, wuchsen zusammen auf und waren voneinander stets untrennbar. Darum begannen die Eltern zu fürchten, dass sie in Blutsande verwallen konnten und beschlossen, das Mädchen heimlich zu entfernen. Deshalb dachten sie eine List. Sie sandten ihren Sohn zur Küste, um ein Pferd gegen andere Waren einzutauschen und brachten, während er sich auf der langen Reise befand, die Tochter nach dem weit entfernten Dorf des Bruders der Mutter, worauf sie mit ihren Dorfbewohnern übereinkamen, der Sohn zu sagen, seine Schwester sei gestorben. Von der Reise zurückgekehrt vernahm Saad diesen Bericht. Er schenkte ihm anfangs Glauben und war tief betrübt. Er bemerkte jedoch nicht, dass seine Mutter, wie es Sohn waren, die ein Kind verloren haben, zu tun pflegen, abends gegen Sonnenuntergang zum Dorf hinausging, um zu beklagen. Er begann daher bei der Dorfgenossen nach dem Grab seiner Schwester zu forschen und da wurde ihm in Geheim mitgeteilt, dass seine Schwester nicht gestorben, sondern bei dem entfernt wohnenden Onkel verborgen sei. Um seine Kummer abzulenken, wünschte er, wie er vorgab, zur Küste zu reisen, wozu er die Zustimmung der Eltern erhielt. Er begab sich jedoch zum Dorfe seines Onkels, bei dem seine Schwester verborgen war, und sagte, sein Vater habe ihn geschickt, um seine Schwester zu holen. Da der Sohn im Namen seines Vaters sprach, konnte der Onkel sich nicht weigern, sie zusammen gehen zu lassen. Im Walde verfiel sie aber in das Bosche, das die Eltern bereits gefürchtet hatten. Darauf kamen sie an einen Piu-Piu-Tangguhan-Baum und sahen daran reife Früchte, empfand Durst und wünschte, die Früchte zu kosten. Sie bat daher ihre Brüder, auf den Baum zu klettern und einen derselben herunter zu holen. Er erfüllte diesen Wunsch, wie er aber oben im Baume saß, verwandelte sich sein Körper in Holz und wuchs mit dem Baum zusammen. Seine Schwester, die nicht merkte, warum er nicht wieder herunterkam, dachte, dass seine Kleider an einem der langen Dornen, mit denen der Stamm des Baumes besetzt war, haken geblieben waren. Sie kletterte daher hinauf, um ihn zu befreien. Als sie aber zu ihm gekommen war, traf sie dasselbe los. Die Eltern im Dorf harrten inzwischen vergeblich auf die Rückkehr ihres Sohnes. Sie fürchteten, dass ihm an der Küste ein Unglück widerfahren sei. Das Wartens Mutter machte sich der Vater reisefertig, den Sohn zu suchen. Sobald das aber im Dorf bekannt wurde, vernahm aus der Gemurmel der Untertanen, dass sein Sohn sich nicht zu Küste, sondern zu Dorf seines Onkels begeben habe, seine Schwester zu suchen. Nachdem der dies vernommen, eilte der Vater nach dem Dorfe seines Schwagers, traf jedoch seine Kinder doch nicht mehr an. Sein Schwager konnte ihm nur den Ort angeben, den sie eingeschlagen hatten, zum erträglichen Dorf zurückzukehren. Darauf wollte der Vater der Spur seiner Kinder durch den Wald und fand sie auf der Baum beisammen. Er vermutete, dass der Sohn der Götter sie getroffen habe und holte einen der Berühmtheiten dazu herbei, und die Kinder ins Leben zurückzurufen. Das war der dazu Pormanuhon, Zauberer mit dem Hund. Er kam, bereitete sein Hund als Zaubermittel zu und kletterte damit auf den Baum. Bei den Personen, die er ins Leben zurückrufen wollte, angekommen, verlor er jedoch wie diese das Leben und wurde zu Holz. Voll Entsetzen eilte der Raja zurück, einen dazu von noch größeren Ruf zu holen. In Begleitung von Datu Pongpang Niobungan auf Herberg Besauberung kehrte er zum Baum zurück. Auf dieser kletterte sie hinauf, erfuhr jedoch das gleiche Schicksal. So erging es noch 3 anderen dazu, von denen jeder den vorhergehenden an Fähigkeit übertraf. Dazu Pochobo Baum na Bolon, Zauberer mit dem bei breithornigen großen Buffel. Dazu Pobuea na Bolon, der Krokodil, und dazu Ulok na Bolon, Riesenschlange. Sie verwandelten sich alle in Holz und wussten am Baum fest. Darauf rief der Raja einen noch größeren, namentlich der Datu Sitabu di Babana, Zauberer, schmackhaft in Wunde oder Sonnensprecher. Dieser kam, betrachtete die Sache von allen Seiten, machte ein bedenkliches Gesicht und sagte, hör mal, mein Fuß, anfangs hegt man eine Erwartung, schließlich ergibt man sich darein. Diese Menschen konnten nicht mehr ins Leben zurückgerufen werden, da der Fluch der Götter sie getroffen hat. Sie sind aber alle eines plötzlichen Todes gestorben, und daher wird ihr Ebenbild der kräftige Zaubermittel sein, den Feindesschrecken einzujagen. Mein Rat ist daher dieser: man schlage diesen Baum und mache aus seinem Holzstabe nach dem Bilde dieser Menschen, die werden den Feind mit Schlangen und lang anhaltende Trockenheit aufhören lassen. So sprach dazu Sitabu di Babana. Sein Rat wurde befolgt, und seitdem gebraucht man solche Stabe, und im Kriege den Feinde Furcht einzuflößen und bei großer Trockenheit Regen kommen zu lassen. Of Vision 83:5. The staff has been the subject of many discussions which are still going on. Let us first give a summary of the different theories, and in order to avoid repetition, determine the value later on. Meanwhile, see in the Tunggal Panaluan the representation
of a flash of lightning shooting down to the earth. In his opinion, the god of cooked images of men and monsters shows shown on the magic wand must be due to this representation. To motivate his point of view, he tries to give an etymological explanation of the names occurring in the myth. Si Aji Donda Hatta Hutan is said to mean the magician spreading fire by lightning, and Si Tabi Raja Nawasan, the water draw a thirsting woman, she who gives waters. She who gives water. They are said to be the personifications of lightning and rain. For no Puissance Van Opuysen rejects Millward's view. Ich bin fest davon überzeugt, dass die auf dem Zauberstab vorkommenden Figuren mit dem Gewitter in Verbindung stehen. Nicht weniger überzeugt bin ich aber davon, dass Millwards Auffassung, als sollten die Hauptpersonen den Blitz und den Regen vorstellen, unrichtig ist. Die Zergliederung der Namen scheint mir der schwachste Teil von Millwards Abhandlung zu sein. Van Opuysen himself, however, uses the same method for the reconstruction of the original meaning of the staff. To attain this end, he has chosen the text published by Plato and arrives at the conclusion that we can explain the myth rather than as a construction of marriage between heaven and earth than as a Darstellung von Personen changed into wood by punishing hands of the deities on account of incest. In contrast to others, Van Opuysen is in strong doubt about the meaning of Talu as being or conquered. He thinks three to be more probable. The idea was suggested to him by the three-colored thread, which in his opinion is typically Batak. He points at the part of this rope in connection with the tunggal panaluan and refers to Millward's of information that a three-colored thread is twisted round the staff from the upper end and the lower end. Taking the mean of Talu as a tree, he thinks it probable that the panaluan means der aus drei Gliedern bestehende. Fischer has also paid attention to the staff, like Van Ossenbogen and Heine Gedon. He states that the staff must not be considered as the original representation of such myths. This refers to the Tunggal Panaluan myths, Philip Lumban Tobing. In his opinion, the myths are later interpretations of the ornamental decorations of certain magic wands, taking sides with Heuser, who thinks it impossible to define all the specimens on account of the enormous differences in the ornaments of the staffs. He opposes Bernard and Tichelman. The former asserts that each staff shows the same figures. The latter apparently wants to make it plausible that originally there were 7 human figures on the staff, as witness his information that each of the really odd pustaha magic ones he has seen shown 7 human figures. Fischer also rejects the opinion of Schnitger and others who see in the Tunggal Panaluan a remnant of totemism. He admits the striking resemblance of style between the Tunggal Panaluan and the totem post of NW American Indians. But in his opinion, this one argument is insufficient. According to Fischer, the Tunggal Panaluan is a death pole and slaughter pole. He refers to a treatise by Lambrecht, who describes Ida Pfeiffer's journey to the Batak regions. He tells about a Datu who made a staff out of a slaughter pole to which enemies captured in war were fastened and tortured. Fischer finds support for his conclusion in the series of treatises by battling on the Hampatongs of Borneo, which all serve as death poles. The last author we will mention in this description is Reschke. In 2 articles, he has given the biblical interpretation of the myths. In the association of the twin, In the absorption of the twins by the tree, he is an allusion to the fall of the first man. He looks upon the tunggal panaluan. He looks upon the tunggal panaluan as a reminiscence of a tree existing in former times, which made the communication between the middle world and the upper world possible. After the fall this communication is believed to have been broken off by the high god, who, however, gave the tunggal panaluan to men as a compensation. De zauberstab is also noch heute de mittels Wesen Mensch und Gott gleichsam von Gott und den Menschen als Ersatz gegeben für das durch ihre eigene Schuld verlorengegangene Paradies.
So far, the different theories let us state that the Tunggal Panaluan is a representation of the tree of life, which is identical with the high god and which symbolizes the cosmic totality and order. By giving this meaning to the Tunggal Panaluan, we can do justice to Milwaukee's view as well as to that of Van Oppissen, Lightning, Upper World, Middle World, and the three-colored thread as an aspects of the high god, but also the results of the research work by Fischer and Reschke are of value against this background. For the making of a staff out of slaughter pole will no longer seem so clear to us, since in the preceding paragraph we have seen that the slaughter pole Borotan represents the tree of life. Is there, a, is there a close relation between the tree of life and a death pole? There is no doubt about it. Banyan trees are planted on the graves to symbolize the union of the deceased with the tree of life. By this interpretation, a surprisingly new light is thrown on the use of the tunggal panaruan and on the fact that not every individual was and is allowed to possess it. To what purposes is the tunggal panaluan used? For discussion, we refer to the last part of the above-mentioned myths published by Tichelman. There are of course more functions attributed to the tunggal panaluan. The supplications of the blissful gifts of children, the wish to become informed of the results of the future enterprise, and the central function of the staff at the celebration of the harvest festival must certainly not remain unmentioned. This summary shows the character of the Tunggal Panaluan. Good and evil, life and death, etc. as ascribed to it. We repeat, it is the tree of life in a concrete form. Who possessed a Tunggal Panaluan? Rosenberg, the Malaysia Archipel, p. 36, states the following. An dem großen Meer von Toba, dessen Ufer das Stammland der Batas, die bevolkt sein sollen, residiert Subakara Singa Maharaja, der sogenannte heilige König des Landes, zu den Attributen seiner Macht gehören Zeit und dergleichen. Seiten dieser Stock Tunggal Panaluan Philipp Lumbantobing von Welcome to dieses einzigartige Exemplar vorhanden ist. Die Stocke nun, welche man gegenwärtig in jedem größeren Dorfe vorfindet, sind Philipp Lumbantobing nichts weiter als oft sehr voneinander abweichende Nachbildungen jenes einzigen Stockes. For the reader who has followed our discussion about the shift of a village community and about the Singamangaja, further commentary is superfluous. As the representatives of the high god, it is the chiefs that are qualified possessors. In this connection, it is evident that Singamangaraja officiated with the real staff, but let us go on and see whether there are any other indications that will support our supposition. Let us restrict ourselves to the myths first. They can be divided into two groups. To the first group, those myths belong in which the incest motive prevails. In our opinion, the relation between incest and the Tunggal Panaluan is an important indication in favor of our supposition. Bearing a sister is not allowed by the adat, and violation of the adat brings about punishment by the high god. But though the incest motif is dominant in this category, yet are some more yet are yet there are some more direct indications that our conclusion is right. First of all, we revert to the above-mentioned myth recorded by Tichelman. In this myth occurs an exculpation from guilt in order to avoid a curse. The same motive occurs in the myth recorded in COD OR 3419 p. 131 to 210. It is not unlikely that this is an allusion to the cosmic character of the star. From apart from iron, charcoal, etc., also wind, fire, and water are implied in this exculpation. CFCOD OR 3491 P 198 Fuhover OCP 68. There's still another indication. When the staff was made, it is said the deity of the under, middle, and upper world were invited to assist the ceremony. CODOR 3419 P149, and they accepted the invitation. They implored to gain the tunggal panaluan power and authority. Item P190. Let us look at the second category of myths, viz., those in which the incest motive is absent. They correspond in this respect, viz., that the tunggal panaluan is described as an object given to man by the deity. The myth recorded by von Brenner, besuch by the Kannibalen P. 227 is to be classed in this group. Also, the text in CODOR 3417 P. 264 is very interesting in this regard. For the sake of clearness, we will give here one of the variants which was provided by Raja Haltun Naibaho at Pangororan.
Dinasaingan, adong masadangan ni siya hasadakan ni mula jadi nabulon. Gabi, say magsay may iba na. Jadi, dipangido ko hanama asa pamasawan pagodangon. Ditiki pagodangon ni siyag mula jadi nabulon tu iba na. Jadi didok iba na ma, au mula jadi nabulon, nuaing siyag tu joma manusia. Baik masada gana-ganan sumantugu panijolma, magtangan, magpat, magulu, magbaba, marigu, magmata, magbutuha. Siyan hauma bayan gana-ganani, on magabe si pagabe pagtaonan si babukas pugiyama. Ganup adong pangidon muna tu debata mula jadi, patotok hamu magana-ganan tunggal panaluanon, huhut mamaluogung. Jadi, di patok-tok na sida magana-garan tunggal panaluani kabisiyag mamula jadi nabulon, jadi didok hasiarani ma sobahamu mamula jadi nabulon, dohot debata na tulu dohot bogus saniyang naga, desa na ualu, pane nabulon, bogas pati ni tano dohot tunggal panaluan. Bain hamu magaga-gaga, sifat tubuh anak, sifat tubuh bogo, sifat tokok bogo. Bain hamu ma panguru barang, pangidoan ni hagabeon. I.e. once there was a man whom Mulaji Nabolon used to enter. As he was suffering from a long-lasting illness, he begged his Maga companions to hold a celebration with Batak musical instruments. This was done, and on this occasion Mulaji Nabolon entered him, saying, "I am Mulajadi Nabolon, who has entered a man. You must make a wooden image of a man with hands, feet, a head, a mouth, a nose, eyes, and belly. This image shall be make the year propitious, the harvest month favorable. Every time you will beg Mulajadi to grant you something, you must dance with this tunggal panaluan by the sound of the gondang." So they danced with the tunggal panaluan, and Mulajadi Nabol entered his medium, who spoke as follows: "Make sacrifices to Mulajadi Nabolon, debata na tolu, perusan yang naga, the points of the compass, pane Nabolon, puraspati ni tano, and tunggal panaluan. You must make a raga-raga which shall cause sons to be born and daughters to be many, and you must make a pangulu balang whom shall beg for this blissful gift for children." It is obvious from the preceding that the Tunggal Panaluan and the High God are closely connected. Therefore, it is not surprising that the 8 points of the compass pane na bolon, bagusan yang naga, beras pati ni tauno, silaon na bolon raga-raga, and the pangulu balang are connected with the star. For all these powers are aspects of the high god. Let us dwell on the pangulu balang just a moment. Up to the beginning of this century, if a maga stole a boy from hostile territory, wherever this was necessary, they made him drink molten lead, so that he died practically immediately. From the body, pupuk was made a magic powder. The spirit of the murdered boy is called Pangulu Balang. We will not go into the question what the motives of this custom were. We only want to defend our viewpoint of to defend our viewpoint that the Pangulu Balang is a manifestation of the High God. In the first place, its totalitarian character attracts attention. The pupuk is put into effigies of men or animals. It is used to draw figures on these effigies, which then become Pangulu Balang themselves. This effigy serves as means to protect one's own marga or attack a hostile one. Pupuk is also buried in the ground. The surrounding fields are then called the Pangulu Balang fields. I paste OCP 218. So, the Pangulu Balang is oneness and multiplicity, spirit and matter, life and death, man and animal, etc. In the formula of prayer pronounced when the Pangulu Balang is on the point of living, 8 points of the compass are called his grandfather, the 12 months his mother, the 30 days his children, and the 5 moments of a day his grandchildren. CF Arsenius Tumbantobing Siajidonda, as said in the preceding. The high God is the unity of time and space. It is probable that the Pangulu Balang is a manifestation of silaon na bolon, the middle aspect of the high God. We can put forward the following arguments.
The text published on P66 SQ on this work describes the origin of the raga-raga. Another Datu Amayubat gave us a more detailed exposition of this matter. Apart from the rock and its components, a well and the Panguru Balang as a messenger of Silaon Nabolon must be made by order of the High God. Considering, however, that Silaon Nabolon as well as the Panguru Balang are employed to grandchildren, cf. the preceding text, it is probable that the Panguru Balang is an aspect of Silaon Nabolon. In this connection, the text of a formula of prayer found in IPS OCP 174 and 1 is worth mentioning. Here, the Panguru Balang is described as the seedbed of special kinds of planets, the breeding place of those animals that lay eggs, and the place where the little girl who has not yet a name is standing in the street in which the little boy who has not yet a name is walking. The oil in the guri-guri, the pot hanging on the tree-colored rope is in the raga-raga, is called the oil of silaon na bolon. Nowadays, Kemiri oil is used. As we were told, however, by our informants, this was not the case until the beginning of this century. Then the guri-guri contained oil made from the corpses of persons killed for the Pangulu Balang purpose. CF Arsenius Lumbantobing Siajironda P56. C. The Pangulu Balang is closely related to the tunggal panaluan, especially during the ceremony on the occasion of the annual renewal celebration, about which more will be said presently. A dance is dedicated to each of the pre-worlds. It is the Pangulu Balang instead of Silaon na Bolon who is invoked during the dance of the middle world and to whom sacrifices are made. Now we will examine the correctness of our interpretation by means of the symbols and the performance of the dance with the tunggal panaluan. The motives for the dance are different and consequently also the nature of its performances. To give an example, in case of war, the Toba Batak will send out the Pangulu Balang to destroy the enemy. In this case, one datu and one dance will suffice, whereas on whereas on other occasions more of them are wanted. The more important dance, which still occasionally performed, is the one given the meeting for the already mentioned Mangase town or Mamele town. Panina Bolon has completed his secular course. A new year will begin. A description of such dance, which we have witnessed ourselves, will show the meaning of this festival as a major religious dramatization of the cosmic renewal. One of the symbols used on this occasion is the double square, representing, as we have seen, the middle word. Sketch 9 is drawn by Guru Silalahi. It shows the three well-known colors representing the cosmic trinity, as well as the three functional groups hula hula, dongan sabutuha, and boru. In the center, there is a naga drawing representing the underworld deity. In the small cycle in the center, an egg is placed. We shall refer to this presently. In the naga drawing, we also notice an axe and an adze. We could not get an explanation of the meaning of these two objects, but in our opinion they are tools which were used when making the tunggal panaluan, and therefore they appertain to the staff. See Volhovi OCP 68. At the corners we see the perpendicular lines, each provides with the three coastlines. Each of them probably symbolizes the cosmos, the tree of life, and its trinity. Let us look at photo 11. There we see a square altar whose edges are decorated with palm leaves. Mare mare. On this altar rice, meat, cooked in different ways, fish, various sorts of vegetables, palm wine, etc. are placed. Over this altar, the, the, over this altar, three flags colored black, red, and white are waving. He who will take the trouble to read our discussion of the Raga Raga in the first chapter will arrive with us at the conclusion that the altar fulfills the same function. It represents the middle world. Close to the altar, we see the tunggal panaluan standing in a basket full of rice. Photo 12, decorated the top with the tricolored thread and with leaves of trees. Apparently, the idea is that the staff being the tree of life, must not rest on the middle world but on itself. The rice coming from the underworld is the underworld itself. The rise coming from the underworld is the underworld itself. The staff rests at the bottom of the basket, which forms part of the tree of life, as witness the leaves of trees with which it is decorated. Under the staff, we see a ulos of the ordinary kind, a pustaha, and a lens. They are represented, as we have seen, under middle and upper world. Apart from these objects, we see the porhalaan representing the year. We shall see a sahan with beautiful carved it. Its meaning is not quite clear. However, in view of the fact that in the rise of the cock oracle it contains water, we may assume that it symbolizes the water. We further see a bunch of fruit. When looking at photo 11, we see some agricultural implements on the extreme left. The dog basking in the sun is a stray village dog. We may suppose that these objects and animals serve to express the function of the Tunggal Panaluan as the cosmic totality. Having discussed the symbols, we will now speak about the dance itself, from which three dhatu were wanted. The ceremony began with a communal dance from the Tunggal Panaluan by sound of the gongs and the kettle drums. Photo 10. It is not unlikely that this dance was intended for the high god in his trinity. Consequently, it must be looked upon as subjection to the high god. Then the first datu made his appearance. He wrapped a ulos agari gidup, the symbol of the high god, round the lower part of his body. Photo 13. He wore a three-colored cloth, black, red, and white as a headcloth. He began with the invocation of the spirits and deities of the upper, middle, and underworld. After each invocation, the musicians played another tune. Then he danced right in front of the tunggal panaluan to the sound of the gongs. He pretended to seize it, but withdrew against with it. This was repeated several times. Then he seized the tunggal panaluan. He went with it to the east, marked in the octagon, then to the southeast, etc. When dancing all the time, he had visited all the points of the compass. He began to catch the staff as if it were his child. He wrapped it in the ragi rope, photo 13, and went to the naga in the center of octagon. Then he acted like a woman in the childbirth, photo 14, and asked for fire, which was given him on the plate, photo 15. Then he rose again, moved, staff in hand, to the corner symbolizing the east, went on dancing in all directions, and then he replaced the tunga panalo in the basket filled with rice. Here ended the first dance. The meaning of this dance is clear. The magic religious dramatization of the vegetation, inciting of the underworld to help bring forth a brisk harvest in the current year. The dancing datu identifies himself with the high god, with the naga as the underworld, and witness the three-colored headcloth and the ragged round lower part of the body from the underworld, represented by the naga, spring fire, vegetation, etc. Now the datu imitates it in the naga drawing. He gives birth to the tunggal panaluan, which being the tree of life is also the vegetation in short the life of the middle world. Let us now pay attention to the second dance. So the tunggal panaluan was replaced in the rice basket. Another datu appeared, also wearing a three-colored headcloth. With the sound of the kettle drums and the gongs, he invoked the spirits and the deities of upper, middle, and underworld. He fetched a plate full of rice from the altar and held it in such a way as to let it rest on the Ragito photo 11. With a formula of prayer, he consecrated the altar and everything on it to the Pangulu Balang. Then he handed the plate to an assistant and wrapped the ragi under his armpits and round his chest so that the waist was entirely covered. Like the first datu, he made dancing movements to the sound of the gongs and drums. Then a bottle of palm wine was handed to him, of which he gave something to drink to the top figure of the Tunggal Panaluan. He took some of the already mentioned pupuk from his girdle and filled the little hole at the back of the top figure. Then he'd withdraw the dancing all the time and drinking a good deal of palm wine. At last, he says the Tunggal Panaluan. He, too, performed a circular course round the octagon, crying loudly, Musu, 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 enemy. Then he kept silent just a moment. Then, thereupon, he forced the Tunggal Panaluan to answer his question. Unang magabuso, sitong mahudok, adong go musu, i.e., don't lie but tell the truth. Is there imminent danger from the side of enemy? Then he pressed it against his ear and pretended to hear something whisper in his ear. Thereupon he announced the message, followed by loud cheers of the bystanders. The message was favorable ima to Tuopung, i.e., may it be so. Opung was represented heard. In an imperative yet imploring voice, he now urged the staff to guard the fields in the year, to grant the children, etc. After each of these imperative requests, if we may call them so, the Datu pressed the staff against his ear, and after each information an applause followed. Then the Datu replaced it in the basket. It is obvious that in this dance, the tunggal panaluan represents the high god as Pangulu Balang, the mid represents the high god as Pangulu Balang, the middle word. The meaning of this dance is a renewal of the bond with the Pangulu Balang, consequently a magic religious renewal of the middle word for the sake of the community. Let us now watch the third Datu, the performer of the last dance but one. His head covered with a three-colored headcloth, the ragi robe drawn over the right shoulder and fastened just under the left armpit. 4 to 15. She began to dance, invoking the spirits of upper, middle, and underworld. Then, to the sounds of the gongs and the drums, she made a few dexterous movements accompanied by all sorts of facial expressions. Right in front of the tunggal panaluan, an assistant handed him a jug of water, and the Datu poured the water on the staff. Then he seized it and, hopping along, casting glances in the direction of the upper world now and then, and moving the staff up and down, he performed the circular course, uttering loud cries. He continued to do so for some time. Then he replied the staff in its former place. We may assume that in this dance, the staff represents the high god as the upper world, as witness the manner in which the Datu works the ragi idup. The meaning of the moistening and the lowering of the tunggal panaluan now becomes clear. The magic religious influencing of the upper world to gain rain for the fertility of the fields, etc. in the new year. Again, after the third dance, the Celta drums and the gongs were resounding, but now in quicker tempo. The Datu who had performed the first dance appeared again, this time with an ordinary cloth around the lower part of the body, while the ragi robe was thrown over his shoulder. After the customary invocations, he let the Tunggal Panaluan drink. He let the Tunggal Panaluan drink palm wine, rub fish, meat, etc. on it, poured water on it. Then he moved away from it, dancing and hopping all the time. Then he says it, move it to and fro, and then up and down, performing the circular course. Then he carries it like a child, pressed it against his ear, and uttered a loud cry, Musu, Musu, Musu. Palm wine was drunk, fish and meat were eagerly eaten. At last he fixed his eyes on the egg in the center of the octagon, aimed the staff at it several times, and then ran to the center and pierced the egg with it. Photo 16. Then he moved away, this time without the staff, whereupon the assistants killed the dog and hen. With this dead animals, the fruits, etc. The line of the octagon and the naga drawing were wiped out. Photo 17. While the altar, the pustaha, the dust, the porhalaan, etc. were taken away, the ceremony ended. This last dance demonstrates the Tunggal Panaluan as the high god in his totality under, middle, and upper world. Therefore, we may see in this dance, which is combination of the preceding ones, the magic religious dramatization of the total cosmic renewal, but also of the cosmic, but also in the of the cosmic destruction, as the two are inherent. the wiping out of the octagon and of the naga drawing, the removal of the altar, etc., the killing of the animals and planting of the tunggal panaluan on the egg. What do they represent? The myth, the text of which is published on p. 106 115 SK of this work, throws a surprisingly new light on this. Let us summarize what we have said what we have said there. The end of the year is the cosmic destruction and renewal at the same time. The tree of life dies, a new one develops from the same trunk, nourished by the fruit fallen from the old tree. Notice the essential oneness of myth, rite, and magic. From the for it for in the wipe for in the wiping out of the octagon and the naga drawing, in the removal of the altar, the clothes, the pustaha, the lens, the porhalaan, etc., and in the killing of the animals, we see the symbolical destruction of the total cosmos, the community included. We see the dramatization of the renewal in planting of the same tunggal panaluan but decorated with young leaves. It is the same tunggal panaluan because it has been in the possession of the community from generation to generation. It is planted on the egg, which no doubt symbolizes the fruit of the old tree of life, and consequently it is a representation of the new cosmic life. So we see that the Tunggal Panalun actually symbolizes the high god. It represents him in his trinity and in the total character of each of his manifestations, in the three aspect dances, and in the one combining the three, and, the, and in the one combining the three, the same stuff is used. To conclude our discussion, we mention again the oneness of the religion and magic. The ceremonies with the staff demonstrate that humility and pride is inextricably intertwined. The wearing of the headcloth and the ragido, the invocation of the deities represent subjection to the high god, but the voice and manner in which the tattoo addresses and uses the staff show not only worship but also pride and rebellion. Religion, and magic cannot be separated here. They are not von ihren extent anfangen, als wij ganz wessen verschillende geistesrichtungen afgetreten. We not believe in a pre-religious or pre-magic stage.